So last week I was big huffing copium that
You
Foggy's not
were,
dead.
and I was saying
Um,
he's dead.
and Hori was being a hater. There was some brilliant sleuths on the internet, shout out them, realised that the building number of Nelson, Murdoch and Page was 468. Daredevil legacy number 468 is an issue around which Foggy Nelson fakes his own death and goes into witness protection.
We know this next episode is going to be a hell of a fight between him and Conquest.
I'm very excited for it. I think it's going to be interesting. And it's definitely going to leave us in a feeling of, holy shit, what now? Because it is the last episode of the series. We're going to have to wait a year till we find out anything else.
Exactly what we had been saying last week of, there's only so many times Reacher can walk away from being the only man alive. And
I
literally,
literally said this to Jenna I was like, me and Hori were saying on the podcast, there's only so many times you can get away with going into a room and being the only one who comes out alive. Hello and welcome back to Cutscene Convos. This is episode 153 and we have many things to discuss, including a character profile on Bullseye, Daredevil Born Again episode 3, Reacher, Invincible, the Nerd News Network. It's all going down, but before all that, how's your week been, Hori?
My week's been pretty good. You obviously, I covered all editing and stuff this week because you had
did.
the assignment.
The busiest weekend from fucking ever.
Sure, we can get into in a moment. But other than that, I mean, I just can kind of chilling. Drive to Survive, the F1 show came out. And I know some people love it, some people hate it. I'm of the opinion of, I'm fully aware that it is highly exaggerated on the storylines.
As an outsider looking in, I feel like Drive to Survive made F1 more popular.
It definitely helped get the younger audience back on board with like being interested in F1. There was definitely.
So I think they just need to kind of accept that it did what it needed to do to make their sport more popular.
I like. My opinion is, we're getting to see behind the scenes stuff that we would never have seen before. We're like
also true.
Like you getting to see like behind the scenes of like the factories and relationships and some of these drivers' lives outside of just a race every other weekend. And yeah, the storylines are exaggerated, but it is what it is. I mean, I love them to do the format more following the season. Like at the moment, the episodes are like they pick a storyline. That's the storyline for that episode, but it'll hop around throughout the season a bit. I think it would be cooler, like if they've more closely followed, like, oh, this is everything that was going down in the first 2 or 3 races. Let's see how this plays out by the final episode.
So if over the course of the episodes the story's developed in tandem rather than we're focusing on this story from the season. Yeah, I get that. That makes more sense.
But then on that creative stuff, been back posting on Instagram, doing my photography, making an effort being creative again, which is, I mean, and like last year especially, I just had a kind of a big creative rut. So it feels good to be just creating again. Just
awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, how's your busy week been?
It was just carnage. So what we recorded on Wednesday. Then on Friday I had a half day at work because we had a Teddy Swims concert in the evening.
Oh yeah.
So I got home from work. I went out to do my first official run of my training for the 10K, which went horrifically because, again, I always feel like such a moron saying this. Before I was all over the internet, I was legitimately in very good shape and very fit and active. And as a result, I still think I can just bounce back to that until I get smacked in the face with reality.
That's like me when I went back to the gym.
So, like, I knew the run wasn't going to be good, but I don't think I was mentally prepared for how bad it was actually going to be. But I had to get the first one out of the way. You have to start somewhere. So that was fine. Got home after the run, hopped in the shower, get ready. We watched Reacher, and then it was in the car to go to the train station to head into London. It was dinner. And so here's this thing. I don't think this is just a me thing, but
Okay.
I know amongst my family it is me who cares about this more.
Okay.
I am very big on at an event being there for the time that doors open.
Right. Okay.
So as a result, the concert's doors were due to open at 6:30.
Yeah.
We had to get into London, have dinner, to then be ready for doors to open at 6:30.
Mm-hmm.
The warm-up act didn't come on the stage till 25 to 8.
Right.
So like as a result, like we're leaving the house at like 3 to be in London for 5 to sit down and have dinner to have finished dinner before 6:30. When in reality, I could have delayed all that by like an hour,
Yeah.
and it still, in theory, would have been fine. But my brain will never ever let that happen because it's like, okay, but it says it starts this time.
So I'm not as strict as what it sounds like you are being there for like when doors open stuff. I will more be of the sense of like, I'm gonna aim to be like get in the queue by like doors opening. But I'm also
Yeah.
not the sort of person who ends up like I will end up being late for things, or I'll be like, oh, I'm getting ready and I'm meant to be leaving in 10 minutes. Oh well, we'll just get there
Yeah,
when I
no,
get there.
that's not me. I work out what like the time you're supposed. So there's this thing, there's this cultural phenomenon, right, where they know people are going to turn up late, so they
Yeah.
build that into the time. And then you got people
Well,
like me who someone says be here 6:30, and unless like a literal bomb goes off on my route, I'm gonna be there at 6:30, right? And as a result of that, I plan back from an event. So I know I need to be there from 6:30. I need to eat dinner before that's going to take an hour and a half. So I need to be at the restaurant for 5. If I need to be at the restaurant for 5, I need to be at the train station we go to for 4:10. We need to be leaving the house at 4:45 at the latest. So we'll give ourselves 15 minutes in case anything goes wrong. We're leaving at 3:30. That is literally my thought process. And then everything goes fucking perfectly smoothly because I know how to plan a journey. And then because other people might not be as good at organising their journeys, I then have to sit there and wait for an hour and a half before I can actually do the thing.
I mean, it's also partly like they need the time to get the cues in.
Fuck them.
I'm very much like, if I'm like, say I was going to something with you and you're like, I'd just be like, what time are we leaving? And like, I would accept that. But if it was me and you're like, oh, we'll meet you at like the events at 6:30 or whatever, like, okay, cool. We're thinking of getting food. I'm like, all right. If I'm then running late, I'm like, I will get food. It's fine. I'll just cut that off.
Yeah.
I'll just cut
That
things
made me
that
so anxious. But
just
so then
rock
we got
up.
back from that. By the time the show finished, amazing show. Teddy Swims is a brilliant performer.
Mm-hmm.
We got home after undoing the journey and getting back. It was like 20 past midnight when we got in.
Mm-hmm.
Then it was up, cracked on the next day in the car, get breakfast, go around to my parents' house to all group up, to then head to the station, head into London again, Wembley. Ironically, should have just got a hotel and stayed over. For the Simon charity match, but that was really weird. So the last two Sidemen charity matches, they've had problems with people turning up on the day without tickets and trying to force their way into the stadium. That's happened at the last two. So this year they did staggered entrances. So on your ticket, it gave you a half an hour slot you had to be in the gate by.
Oh.
Which works absolutely fine for me, no bother.
Yeah.
If they would have said like our slot was 1 to 1:30,
Mm-hmm.
if they would have just gone doors open at 1, I'd have been there at 1 anyway. I don't give a fuck. But it was just weird because that added an extra time constraint. I'm like, right, well, if we're even a minute late, we're then like, what's going to happen? In reality, they would have still let us in, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Fortunately, the weather was gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
So we chilled in there. It's a big family day out. We had a great time. Watched the game. Got home. And then by the time we got home.
By the looks of
it. No, we were literally 2 rows from the front. We were right behind the goal. It was class view. Had a great time. I did appear on the fucking charity stream as well. My massive mug. I got messages in my work group chat. I got the fucking lot. It was quite funny. But yeah, so then that cracked on. So bearing in mind, we got home at 20 past midnight and we left, I think, at 10:15 Saturday morning. So we'd not even been home like 10 hours in total. We'd been asleep for like 8 of them. Then we didn't get back till 8 o'clock Saturday night, and we hadn't had dinner at that point. And then in my head, I'm like, I've not even done any of the editing I need to do this week. So Sunday, I literally sat in front of my computer. But
edited.
parents had more showings at their house, which they're selling. So we also had guests round on Sunday.
And you're just in your room.
You know them weekends where you need a holiday to recover from it? That's kind of what I had. I loved every single second of it, but after that, I was like, I would love to not talk to another person for 5 days.
That's
And
funny.
this is the week that I have someone in for training all week, so I've been training them all week. So
No.
even while I've been at work, I've not been able to just like do what I normally do and just ignore everyone and just crack on. There's been someone there that's been relying on me for information.
Oh, see, I'm about to have, because this weekend is when I have my yearly family
Yes.
weekend. And then the week after, my parents are going from the weekend away for a week. So then I'm like, I do get the alone recovery period of being like, I've socialized with all my family for a weekend. Now I get to be alone for a week. Which is, yeah, it's going to be nice.
Awesome. Yeah, busy old week, and now we've got a premiere tomorrow. Me and Jen, a European premiere.
Yes. The
She won a
first
concert
red carpet appearance for Cutscene Cover.
This is not how I envisioned it, I'll be honest.
Do we
But
get to
hey.
know what the premiere's for?
Yeah, it's Alto Nights. It's the new Robert De Niro film.
Oh.
So, like,
Game
when
on.
Jen was like, I was like, it's going to be stressful, like, getting there because it's like, as I've explained, I like to be there
Yes.
when for the second you can get in. And obviously it's a work day, but I'm like, sharing a cinema with Robert De Niro is kind of like the dream, so we'll make it happen. But yeah, so that'll be good. It's just
So,
I need a week off.
next week, if the pod gets cancelled because Con's now left me to go be a superstar.
Just keep it on Twitter. Me and Robert De Niro might have a podcast coming your way. But yeah, let's get into some good stuff because we've got a lot of awesome stuff to discuss.
We do.
Starting with our character profile on the one and only Bullseye, everyone's favourite villain, I think is a fair thing to say with the way the internet is feeling these days. The enigmatic, psychotic, and sadistic villain, Bullseye, first appeared in Daredevil number 131, released in December 1975. Before joining the NSA as a special operative, he was set to be a professional pitcher in Major League Baseball. However, by his own admission, he grew bored of being unbeatable and instead aimed at the batter's head, killing them. His career with the NSA was naturally hampered by his sadistic tendencies. Due to this, he ended up leaving and becoming an assassin for hire, as he enjoyed killing so much. Despite his perfect marksmanship with all weapons, as a freelance assassin he developed his signature MO of throwing weapons, as he had had weapons fail to fire before and decided he could only trust his own abilities going forward. Bullseye was a highly sought after assassin. His battles with Daredevil began when he was hired to kill Daredevil's alter ego, Matthew Murdock. With Daredevil stopping this attempt on Murdock / his own life and stopping Bullseye. This sent Bullseye into a tailspin, believing Daredevil had ruined his reputation. As a result of this, he began setting traps to fight Daredevil at any and all opportunities to try and get his revenge. This continually led to Bullseye losing and being handed over to the police. Eventually, this obsession manifested itself in a brain tumour that began causing hallucinations for Bullseye, where he would see everyone as Daredevil. This caused him to go on a murderous rampage, hurting many innocent civilians. Of course, Daredevil was able to stop him once again and get him the help he needed, removing the tumour. This hatred between Bullseye and Daredevil became mutual when, upon finding out that Kingpin had hired Elektra over Bullseye, Bullseye killed Elektra. This left Daredevil distraught as he deeply loved Elektra. Daredevil then hunted Bullseye down and beat him mercilessly, He even went as far as to let him fall to his apparent death. However, Bullseye was able to survive, albeit with a shattered spine, leaving him paralysed. Using his connections with the Japanese crime lord, he was able to get an experimental surgery to lace a small amount of adamantium to his bones, making him stronger and more durable. This allowed Bullseye to go back to his profession, until his obsession with Daredevil was sparked once again. Daredevil, having gone AWOL for an extended period, was nowhere to be seen, and this gave Bullseye an idea. He took over the mantle of Daredevil and began himself playing the hero, stealing from the rich and giving to the poor. However, due to his psychotic mind, he began to believe himself to actually be the real Daredevil. It was only when Matthew Murdock dressed himself as Bullseye and confronted him, he was able to convince Bullseye he wasn't really Daredevil and restore him to his own version of sanity. Bullseye has gone on to serve as a member of the Thunderbolts under Norman Osborn, during which time he was used to bring in heroes that had failed to register under the Superhero Registration Act. After this, he was then hired onto Norman Osborn's Dark Avengers, where he took the moniker Hawkeye. After the fall of the Dark Avengers, Bullseye returned to his ways of a hitman for hire, having regular battles with New York heroes, and of course his rivalry with Daredevil has never truly ended. And this is why I think Bullseye in live action media has got a really good opportunity now. A lot of characters' iconic villains have been killed off, or they've been put in a position where they can't really be their best versions.
Yeah.
Right now, Bullseye's in the perfect position to just be a street level villain that all heroes get stuck with trying to deal with occasionally.
Yeah.
Seeing him pop up in season 2 of Hawkeye would be cool. Seeing him appear in a Defenders spin-off, if that does get off the ground, or a Spider-Man grounded story, would be really cool. Even if he's not the main villain, but like a B villain, just always cropping up and causing awesome fight scenes, and just fucking hell, this is exhausting. Because most of like New York's heroes can deal with him, doesn't make him any less difficult to capture and deal with.
Well, no. I mean, we saw
And especially like this version of Bullseye we've seen.
Yeah.
Where, like, in that first fight scene, in between getting the shit kicked out of him, he was taking the time to hurt as many civilians as possible.
Well, yeah.
Like, keeping that character rolling
Matt up as
is
well.
brilliant. Exactly. Keeping that character rolling would be a brilliant, just kind of, oh fuck, I've got to fight Bullseye. As like it's not difficult to stop him, but I can't stop the chaos he's going to cause while I'm stopping him.
Yeah, because I mean, at the moment he's been sentenced to prison.
Yeah. And as we know, famously in comic book worlds, prisons are not the most secure places.
No. So, yeah, no doubt he will break out or be released by the government, maybe. Of some sort.
Quite possibly. We may see some kind of arc similar to what we've just heard he went through, where he gets given a bit of special dispensation to bring in masked heroes.
Possibly.
Speaking of which,
yes,
Daredevil
episode
3.
Now,
I think this proves that this show is good. This episode is so well written and so well put together. This just, like, I don't think you can have a show that can produce an episode this well written and also be a bad show. I think they're, like, impossible to, like, in a Venn diagram, them two circles can't overlap.
No, I think, well, there is the only way a show this well written, like, it would visually have to be shot shockingly. And then I think even people would just go, this is like shot like a fucking indie film, but it has the writing level of a blockbuster. Like, people would kind of, I don't know. Yeah, it's so well put together. And then we were loving it after the first 2 episodes, but I think like all deny, like, you can't deny that this is a great return to Daredevil.
What I'd say based on what I've seen on the internet is either one of two things has happened. Either people have done what we've always suggested, and they watched the first two episodes, they didn't like it, so they've not bothered watching the third episode, and they've gone, it's not for me, that's fine, which is a completely okay thing to do. Or they've seen this episode and gone, I judged you too harshly, continue. Because the amount of negativity I'm seeing this week compared to last week is insignificant.
I think the unfortunate problem was the way they chose to launch the show, that moment of kickstarting it with that fight, which, yes, some of the VFX didn't have full polish. Like, there was a little bit of, I can admit, it wasn't like perfect VFX. I think, unfortunately, that being the first instant that people saw, they went straight to social media and were like, this looks shit. And, like, we're mad. But then even, I reckon by the end of the second episode, though, they were probably all quietly sat there like, well, I've nothing else to really hate on now. Like, unfortunately, it kickstarted with a thing that was very polarizing. And like you said, people either stopped watching or they've kept watching and gone, yeah, okay, maybe we reacted a little too quick there.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you haven't kickstarted with more copium this week. After
okay.
People discovered
I didn't know where we were going to discuss this. So, I have been on an emotional rollercoaster with this. I don't think I've given you the latest update on this.
Okay.
So last week I was big huffing copium that Foggy's not dead.
And I was saying he's dead.
And Hori was being a hater. And then about, was it the next morning or was it later?
It was literally like the next day.
There was some brilliant sleuths on the internet, shout out them, realised that the building number of Nelson, Murdoch and Page was 468. And Daredevil legacy number 468 is an issue around which Foggy Nelson fakes his own death and goes into witness protection. And a lot of people are speculating there are no such thing as coincidences. And on the phone call, there was like a lot of like conspiracy talk going on that may lend itself to the idea that something crazy is going on and Foggy needs to go into witness protection. And that made a lot of sense. I do think it makes a lot of sense. It's very possible. I think, like, in the grand scheme of it, especially the way Marvel does stuff, incredibly believable that is an Easter egg. As well as the news that Eldon is back for season 2. The only minor scupper in this plan is that someone's been to the street where they filmed it, and that building is actually 468.
So it's not a necessary. Well,
it could be the best double down of their life of going, we're going to find a building that works for us that is 468, or it is genuinely the most insane coincidence that's ever been on such a large scale.
I am still team Foggy is dead.
Yeah, Hori's a hater. He doesn't like Foggy. I don't know why. Foggy's been nothing but kind to Hori.
Mainly because, like, my still, like, conviction of I don't think they bring him back, and I also don't think they should, is because the way that scene played out was so intense for, like, us as the viewer returning and, like, being, and, like, they really sold him dying, that I feel like if they suddenly go, psych, he's in witness protection now, even though you just watched him bleed out, like...
Okay, counterpoint. If Foggy knows he has to go into witness protection and knows that Matt can't know, he's gonna find a way of saying to them, this needs to be so believable that God himself thinks I'm dead, because he knows that Matt will know if he's dead or not.
True. But this also plays into, like, the reasoning that kind of leans on more my side that people have explained of, like, because people are like, it's Bullseye, like, he missed, he never misses, like, he would just headshot him. the counterpoint people are now saying is, no, he shot him there on purpose because he knew he would die slowly that way. He knew Matt would turn up and then would have to fight him while slowly listening to his friend die. And that makes it more brutal.
I can believe that very much that he would shoot him somewhere where he knows that without an ambulance there instantly he's dead, and he's a sadistic fuck. He enjoys people being in pain. That doesn't sell it to me too much. I can believe that maybe there is some shenanigans going on, that it might be not all that is seen, because I also think for season 2, when Matt's clearly in a semi-healthy place, having accepted his friend's death, that would throw such a spanner in the works for Matt if he finds out he's been lied to this entire time. Especially if the reason Karen moved to San Francisco is because she knew the truth and she couldn't lie to Matt every day. I said it felt out of character for Karen to run away. What if it was a case of she knew, and she knew because she knows Matt can tell when she's lying, that she couldn't stay near Matt?
No, because I feel like Matt... No, I believe the whole storyline of, like, Matt just went ghost mode and, like... Hell's... Like, you've also got to look at it as, like, Karen... Think of how much she's gone through in Hell's Kitchen. Like, there comes a point when you're like, I just don't want to live here anymore. Like, I like, there's too much trauma attached to this place. Like, I'm sorry, but... And the one person that was my only person still here is completely ghosted me. I'm gone. See you later.
I think this is going to be a point me and Horry are on the opposite side of until we get an actual conclusion.
I think that.
My only other thing I would say, and this is kind of not really related, but it makes more sense to say it now before we get into the meat and potatoes of this episode. Are you aware of how big Hell's Kitchen actually is?
Well, yeah, it's like a whole, essentially a borough of New York, right?
No, it's not a borough. It's like 1 square mile.
Oh, it's even smaller.
Yeah, it's fucking tiny.
The way they always talk about it, like in the episode when Matt was on the date, and he's like, they're talking about, oh, where are you from? It's like, makes it sound like, okay, well, still, I mean,
and like, I saw a couple of Americans tweeting, it was like, people not from New York, are you aware of how big Hell's Kitchen actually is? Because it's kind of weird that this dude with powers who can help a lot of people just cares about one tiny bit. They're like, I find it very difficult to believe that even though he's blind, everyone in Hell's Kitchen doesn't know he's Daredevil.
Yeah, and I mean, let's be honest, he definitely does stuff outside of Hell's Kitchen. That's just where
quite funny.
They mainly tell stories.
But this episode.
Yes, this episode.
Very much a lawyer episode.
Yes.
In the best possible way. Like, I'm saying lawyer episode as like a compliment.
Oh yeah, no, I really enjoyed... I said it last week that I was enjoying more of the law side stuff because we're getting a Matt that isn't being Daredevil at the moment. And something I forgot to like talk on last week, I really enjoyed... Like, can we just point out that Matt just casually at one point just goes, oh, he wasn't in possession of his magical amulets. Like, that is such a kind of an odd thing for the MCU to like fully, like, if you think old Netflix Daredevil would never have like been that mystical and accepting of it. And it's cool that we're getting a court story, like lawyer story.
How does law work in this world where you got big green men and mystical amulets? Yeah.
Yeah, and like, and then obviously in this episode he ends up revealing that he is White Tiger, which bit of a dick move, but I get why he did it. But like,
it was his only play.
He was backed into a corner, but like that whole idea of then how would that then play into a court case?
Yeah.
And like,
and ironically, the judge says something that's always bugged me, especially like American legal dramas. And they're like, the jury will ignore that comment. It's like, if I was a juror and someone said something and then the judge was like, you must ignore that, I would not be able to ignore that.
Well, yeah, the judge goes, I could dismiss this, but it's already been said. Like, he's fully aware that he can...
Something like a White Tiger mask has already done the damage.
It's like, I can tell them not to take that into account, but people subconsciously will take that into account. Like, is well aware. So there's like, and then I did enjoy the point of you realize that there's now it's open season for the prosecution to use this just as much, and it's like, yeah. And I
But I
will
know I couldn't win
say,
without it.
yeah, I will say that obviously we know this guy was innocent, and it's like was shitty seeing the fucking witness fold. And as the viewer, we're like, oh, but we know he's innocent, and this is bullshit. The prosecution guy, who's the general attorney, right?
DA.
DA, that was it.
District Attorney.
District attorney. He made a fair point of the whole, like, just because he's a hero and he's done all these good things and he acts as a hero doesn't prevent him from doing something evil by killing a cop, which is very true.
It's the beauty of kind of the court system, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're going to go, these are the actual facts, and then I'm going to give my opinion of these facts. He's going to give his opinion of these facts, and you guys need to decide who you think makes more sense.
Yeah.
So it is absolutely valid to go, yeah, he's done a bunch of good things, but he does wear a mask. That's kind of odd, no? But when you've got Matt going, here is a police officer saying that White Tiger is the fucking saving grace. Here are people who've been saved by him. Do you think that same person just randomly decided to kill a cop? What do we think is more likely here? And I think if I'm on that jury, I'd probably end up somewhere along the lines of there was someone getting beaten up by the police, but he did throw the police officer in front of the train. That's probably where I would have ended up landing.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would be on the, if I was in the jury, I'd be like, okay, this is someone who's acted as a hero. We have seen on the news what White Tiger's done. You're like, okay, he's generally done very good things in protecting the community. He said he was just protecting someone on that platform, and the cops said there was no one there, and then this witness turned up, but didn't seem to tell the truth exactly. Like, you, even as a jury, you'd be like, we've just seen that the guy that brought this witness on is now pissed because the witness has changed their story. So you're like, okay, all of that shit, we ain't getting the full truth there. So it's like, what does your gut say? But yeah, this whole seeing how a court case would play out with a superhero essentially as the person on trial is an interesting side that we don't really often get to see.
Yeah, very, very cool. I enjoyed that. And I enjoyed like the political side once he got him acquitted as well. Of Fisk going on record as like, this is a miscarriage of justice and nothing's happened right and blah, 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 blah. Very, very cool.
That's something I'm also, like, we've said for a while, like, we want more street level Marvel MCU stuff. And like, we would both agree that a Spider-Man TV show would be an amazing way to do that. We don't necessarily going to get that. Oh well. I will say with this show, something that I'm really loving they're using compared to whatever Netflix has done, the whole BB report thing. It's a really fun, creative tool to tell the stories of the general people on the street level and like show what would a general person's opinion be of like a case going on, of the crime level currently. Like, it's such a good way to pull us as the viewer into that street level of being like from their perspective, looking at the heroes rather than us being a comic book fan being like, oh, the heroes are the best thing, and like looking down on it all.
I completely agree. Like them reports, especially being on a different aspect ratio as well.
Little square.
They really do feel like a panel from a comic books. Like, instead of like an individual issue, like when they compile like an arc down, it feels like the kind of thing you would have recurring in an arc to show public opinion shifting towards or against the hero as the story progresses. And they're serving that role in this story in a very similar way. And it's just one of them creative decisions that I've said it countless times while we've done this podcast. Letting creative people be creative is normally the right way to go. And this feels like one of these decisions where creative people have gone, this would be fucking awesome, we should try it. And I think it is, like you say, adding a lot to the feel of the story overall.
Yeah. I'm Interested to see what Fisk's game plan is. Because we're
I
getting...
genuinely think he's gaslit himself into thinking he's doing what's good for New York.
Yes, but also, like... So there's little things there. Like, I genuinely think he thinks being mayor gives him that control again of being able to help New York and not have the law coming against him. And he's like kind of immune from Daredevil coming against him because he's like, well, I'm doing this properly now. But there's like the things with Vanessa where he's like, oh, we just let them have their chaos for the time being and we'll bring in a new order. I'm like, what sort of new order? Like, is there a end game plan here that you're being very sus around, like how you're then going to flip this into you're in control again? Also, last week, when he sat at the desk and he was like, how old is this desk? His knuckles were bloody.
Yeah.
And like that was like it was a very clear on purpose shot to show us that. Obviously, this week we got a similar shot showing Matt's knuckles when he was like cleaning up after. I'm wondering if we're gonna get like that's meant to be being like, no, he's still up to no good, like he's doing shit on the side, or this is just a funny thought that there's going to be a point where they're making us believe that he's still up to doing shit, and that's why he's got like bloody knuckles because he's quietly is doing criminal stuff. But actually, it's just his workout plan as he does boxing.
So I think you're closer on the second half there. So in an interview, Vincent D'Onofrio like mentioned how much thinner he is for this
Yeah.
Series.
Well, and Matt
And part
mentioned
of
it.
that, yeah, and part of that was Vincent D'Onofrio said, I physically, at the age I am now, can't put on all that weight in a healthy way,
Yes.
which is completely fair. But they've decided to incorporate that into his arc for this season. And by the sounds of it, they're going for like a proper over the top massive kingpin next season. So it sounds like there's going to be something to do with the arc of this season is going to turn him into fucking massive.
Okay.
And I do think there might be like a training element to that. But
Maybe.
I think they're going to play with that idea of what he's doing a lot.
Okay, yeah.
Is he, and just because he's not doing anything criminal by punching stuff up, maybe, yeah, he's just punching stuff for his training. But what's he training for? Why is he becoming so formidable?
I'm like, are they going to play off as he's just training because that's how he's controlling his rage?
Yeah, maybe. There's a lot of really interesting options here. I'm really curious about how they're going to play this, and I'm loving it because you fit like you know what we said with Captain America: Brave New World, where they gave up the reveal of Red Hulk in the trailer.
Yes.
So you felt like you were ahead of the story the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
We're not getting that now.
No.
We're behind the story. Every time we learn something new, we are learning something new.
Yeah, because the trailers have already basically shown, or the only things we haven't seen from the trailers is him meeting up with Punisher again, and him suiting up with all the help. Like, so yeah, there's a lot of mystery to this season because they've been very smart and like they gave us enough at the trailer to kickstart us, which we got in the first 2 episodes basically. Now it's kind of like, where do these other things lead to? Because I also think there's a very interesting story here with their therapist is Matt's new girlfriend. She knows Matt has history with Fisk. At what point does Matt find out that her new client is Fisk? Is it an accidental, he's with her, they bump into them, and then there's this like, oh.
I would love a double date so much.
Or does Fisk find out she's dating Matt, and then he's like there's some manipulation there that both sides could lose their cool because they're kind of now intertwined, which I think is going to make for an interesting storyline again.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Now, the end of the episode.
Yes.
White Tiger's free. He suits up after being told he shouldn't, but I thought, which again, I liked that line of Matt saying, "You might be surprised how much you don't miss it," which I think obviously is just we know that's him talking from personal experience.
He's gaslighting himself. He misses it every day. I
We
promise you. He's gonna look like a junkie when he first suits up. Okay, he's gonna be like,
well,
"Oh yeah, that's the
we
stuff."
saw him in that fight with the cops. Like that was like the first hit again. Let's be honest. But White Tiger gets shot by someone with a Punisher vest on. I don't believe that's Punisher.
No, it's a police officer.
Yeah.
You think the Punisher would assassinate someone from the shadows? He'd walk out in the middle of the street calling him out.
That, but also, I was like, I don't think he would see what White Tiger. Like, I don't see how he would see him as like someone who deserves to be killed.
No, he wouldn't.
No. So I was like, that's a copycat police officer, like probably police officer.
As we saw with the tattoo on the wrist and the tattoo on the neck in the courtroom,
Yeah,
there is a bunch of police officers running around using the Punisher's iconography, and Frank is going to. I need it when they've been talking throughout, like the press about how violent this show is. I need them to when they're talking about this, go that one episode with Frank, man, it got too real.
So the only thing we've seen in the trailer is he like slams him against like a locker. I bet the storyline's going to be that Matt finds out, obviously, that White Tiger got killed. He's going to do some digging. He's going to start learning about that Punisher icon. And then he's going to think it is
Frank.
Find out where he is. Confront him. Frank's going to be like, "What the fuck you on about? I stopped doing that shit. I gave up on that shit. Like, I walked away from it." Like, to then...
I think Frank has given up being the Punisher. If you look in the footage we saw of him, there is a fuck ton of guns on the wall behind him. I think he's very much still the Punisher. I think he's just better at not being so noisy now.
Possibly that. But, like, I don't think Matt's going to believe him, but then they're eventually going to realize that that's not the case. And I think you're right. Frank's going to be like, fuck these cops using my image. And we're going to get some brutal, like...
I really hope that Matt makes one of his shitty lawyer jokes about what do you want to do, sue him for copyright infringement. I think that'd be quite funny.
That would be quite good.
But yeah, I definitely think there's some interesting stuff going on there. Did you notice the interesting part of the trial when it comes to White Tiger? He mentioned how he was moving into a studio flat because he'd been living with his sister and his niece.
Yes.
His niece is the White Tiger.
Okay, because was it you sent me a thing about the future of White Tigers in...
Yes. So I believe he was due to die in this show anyway. I don't think the actor very sadly passing away changed that. But we have the White Tiger, and that is Ava Alaya, and it is Hector's niece.
Wasn't she sat in the court?
Yes, that was the little girl sat in the courtroom. So we've got our next White Tiger ready to fucking go.
Yeah.
And they can sit on that for a little while and then decide what they want to do with that.
And because we know cool. The powers come from the amulet, so it's like...
Yeah, it was cool to see the amulet. I would have liked it maybe a little bit bigger.
I was expecting like to see the eyes glow properly or something. Like just something
like
to show
it was a gorgeous piece of jewelry, but I would have liked something that made it a little bit more, ooh, what is it?
Yeah, I get what you mean. But yeah, like I'm loving this show. It's so good. It's shot so well. The writing, as we've already said, is incredible.
Yeah.
I'm just so intrigued to see where these storylines go. And I'm so ready for Matt to just suit the fuck up so we can have another fight.
I'm really looking forward to the kind of arc they take here. I'm loving how a lot of the original show had this kind of idea of I'm breaking the law as a lawyer, that's wrong. which I was never a massive fan of, because if you subscribe to that idea, you believe all laws are moral, and that is fundamentally wrong. Not all laws are moral. This show seems to be tackling that idea that the law is strictly moral
Yeah.
by putting Fisk in a position of power and showing,
Mm-hmm.
well, he's technically the law now, but we know he's not moral.
Mm-hmm.
Even if he's not doing anything illegal, we've already seen him playing political games with the
But
police
blackmail.
commissioner by showing that he knows that he has an illegitimate son.
Yeah.
And that's not moral. So is Matt going out there and genuinely just trying to help people just because it's illegal? Is it immoral? And I think that's what the show's going to play on a lot. And I'm really looking forward to see exactly how that goes. And I love that we're getting superhero media back to being less about, is it legal, is it illegal, and stuff like that, which I think is a little bit of like propaganda,
Yeah.
and more a case of, are you just trying to do the best thing you can in that situation? Because that's what heroes are being about.
Yeah.
And we're seeing it a little bit in Invincible.
We are.
To an extent, we're even seeing it in Reacher. It's not about, is it legal, is it illegal? It's about doing what's right.
Yeah, what's right and what's wrong. He doesn't care about the law.
And this is the big thing with like propaganda to an extent. Getting away from the idea of following the law and because it's legal makes it okay is very important. Because you can still look at something Matt does or Reacher does or Invincible does and goes, hold on a second, that's not quite right. Like Mark busting into the Pentagon.
Yeah.
But it's more illegal than it is wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is a big thing. Laws are not are like a moral compass. They're just things we've decided are illegal. I don't think it's immoral to steal a loaf of bread to feed your family. It's like the base. But stealing a Lamborghini because you don't want to pay for your new Lamborghini is absolutely immoral, because why the fuck do you need a Lamborghini to start with? Type vibe.
Yeah,
and I like that we're going more that way. And also viewing the police as a gang, which is what they're showing the police as so far.
Yeah, they're showing...
Let's be clear, the police are the biggest gang in the world.
Well, what I'm enjoying is this is their way of doing dirty cops. Because like we see like in your typical like mafia film, gangster, like you get your dirty cops that are paid off by the mafia or whatever. But having it be like they're all like under this.
They are the mafia.
Yeah, and they're all playing under this Punisher iconography because they have him as this like idol, but they don't understand him, is going to be such a fun story to see play out. Because we know, as comic book fans, Punisher does not like that. So hopefully we get the payout.
Yeah, exactly that. But a great episode. I think Comar Dolos Reyes' performance was stunning.
Yeah.
Just a master. Like in episode 2 and episode 3, his acting has just been phenomenal. I think the use of the frog noise at the end of the episode was unnecessarily brutal, and they didn't need to attack me like that.
They're so good with their ending moments.
It does. Do you know what? That is a big praise I will give this show so far over the Netflix show. This show isn't ending in spots that make you feel like you need to watch the next episode instantly because, oh, that's ended in like the middle of a fucking sentence, so I need to hear the rest of the sentence and just keep binging. This show is like ending on moments where it's like, okay, you need a minute to process what you've just seen.
The difference between releasing weekly and
proper TV and binge TV, So yeah, I mean, I'm over the moon with this show so far. I'm very excited to see where it goes. Can't wait for more. I'm so excited that season 2 has already been greenlit and is being worked on.
Yeah.
Next up,
Reacher.
Reacher. Oh yeah.
I mean,
this episode's quite old in my head because I watched it last Friday, so you might have to fill in some gaps for me. But it was another great episode.
I know it was exactly what we had been saying last week. There's only so many times Reacher can walk away from being the only man alive. But like, we were like, something's going to catch on eventually. And literally,
said this to Jenna I was like, me and Hori were saying on the podcast, there's only so many times you can get away with going into a room and being the only one who comes out alive. And then he said that. I'm like, fuck, these writers know what they're doing.
Yeah, it was that moment of like, he stops her killing him and he's like, no, I can't be the only person to survive this again. It's going to start. It's like, okay, we should have known this man is smart enough to understand that. We shouldn't have doubted our man Reacher.
But do you know what I like most about that as a viewer? That's a completely like that's a normal kind of criticism tag. It's like, okay, but someone would get suspicious that he's the only one surviving, and then the show goes, "Yes, you're right, they would," and he knows that.
Yeah, and he's making sure that doesn't happen. We were also right that the young lad was going to get played by the captive.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so glad he instantly got what he deserved, though, because that was brutal what he did to the young lad.
Yeah, it was. It's when he did it the first time. I was like, oh my god, he's gonna leave him unconscious, and then he just kept
Yeah,
stamping. I'm like, oh my god.
and but then it's like in that moment, I'm like, this guy works for the guy Reacher's hates. Of course, he's got no like moral like he is one of those. I knew straight away, like when he was like, okay, fine, to get, he was going to get the lighter, and you saw him put that stuff in his. I was like, he's gonna spray that in his face. It's gonna obviously then ignite, and that's gonna be the get out. The fact the Reacher flipping the car casually,
So funny.
man's a fucking machine. And then
He is.
the older guy being like faked knocked out, and then he opens his eyes, and the guy's like, wait, what? And then gets shot in the head. Was such a good karma moment for him.
Mm-hmm. I also love the way they did she cut the power to make it work.
Yes.
And then Reacher just like started gaslighting everyone. He's like, well, who's guarding the gate then, dumbass? He's like, oh, you need to all go in your room, otherwise you might die.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely pushed his luck. I think he got away with it, but you could tell even like the dad, the guy that's like in charge, even he was like, my son's listened to Reacher instead of me. Like this, you could tell that rubbed him the wrong way a little bit. And then Reacher just like drives off because he's like, oh, well, I'm gonna go wait at the end of the road and make sure that no one turns up. And then I'm like, okay. Meanwhile, they shake down the entire house. Once again, this episode has me stressed.
How did they not find the badge, man?
So, in my head, the theory, because like we're shown the badge silhouette because he's like flashlights going around. In my head is as he's searching that room, they probably found.
Someone finds, yeah, that
and then that like
sense.
acts as a distraction of like, oh, we found the problem.
Well, no one ever thinks about the second mole.
Yeah.
Once they get the first mole, they assume they've got all the moles. So it will be a case of, yeah, if he's in the middle of tossing the room, they go, we've got him. He's not going to go, oh, I should keep checking in case he's a mole too. He'll be like, oh, there we go, we've got the mole, because there is only ever one mole.
I mean, even me as a viewer, I never actually considered that someone else in there might be another mole, because we know the girl got sent in there and has disappeared, and we know Reacher is the mole. So like, oh, that's already been two, technically. Like, weren't expecting a third from like I forget what the department is that deals with
ATF,
weapons.
was it?
ATF, yeah. So yeah, I love the whole thing of like, fucking hell, it's like let alphabet soup in there or whatever.
But they built the tension for that reveal so well as well. The last thing we'd seen inside the house was the flashlight and the silhouette of the badge.
Yep.
So we're like, oh my god, it's only a matter of time. Then he comes back and everyone's been really serious, like, we found the mole. And you got Reacher being much calmer than I would have been. He's like, okay, they've not given any indication they know it's you. Do not accidentally blow your own cover in case it is intact. He put himself in a position to give himself a chance, but stayed as calm as he possibly could.
He definitely lost a bit of that cool when he found out who'd been killed.
But he also did a very good job playing that off as a case of he was angry because his head of security didn't get to interrogate them.
Yeah, and
he did a very good job redirecting it.
The other guy, who's the one that cleans up the messes,
the mouthy little shit.
That's what I said as well. But then the first, like, we've had the thing in the little scuffle in the gym where he got the one up on Paulie. I loved that we got to see Reacher essentially lose for like the first time. Of like, he goes for the gut punch and it did nothing. And then Paulie essentially just bitch slapped him.
Yeah, he literally went, "Sit the fuck down."
And you
Yeah,
can, the
it
look
was.
on Reach's face of like, this is the first time probably since I was a child that someone's got the better of me in a fight. And like, I forgot what this feels like and I don't know how to react.
Like, realistically, what percentage of humans would either be taller than or physically stronger than Reacher and also
Less
have
than
any
1%.
kind of combat training? Like, the chances that he's met anyone who physically has the ability to intimidate him even a little bit are astronomically low.
Yeah, I liked that he kind of later explained the thing that threw him off was like, I didn't expect him to move so fast for his size, which showed that even Reach was like, yeah, I know he's bigger than me, but like usually big guys are slow. They might hit hard, but I'm quicker. He wasn't expecting him to be like, oh, he's bigger than me, he's stronger than me, and he's as fast as me. That's not a good like trifecta of qualities to go against. I did then enjoy him shutting up the mouthy one by just sucker punching him in the gut, and instantly he throws up. And he's
Well,
like,
it's
"Oh,
funny
you do have
because
an off button."
it's really funny with characters like dialogue. Very rarely do I like want a character to shut up. They did a really good job of writing that dialogue twice. And like, oh my god, will this guy shut the fuck up? As Reacher hits him, I'm like, oh my god. I was like the third time in this episode they answered my question as I was saying it to myself. I'm like, okay, cool. You nailed your pacing here. You knew exactly what the viewer would be feeling.
Yeah, they're doing such a good job of like, we think we're like, oh, we're figuring this out, we're a step ahead, and then they go, no, we already know you're thinking that. Hello, we wrote this show. Also now, things we said as well last week that got answered in the show have been like, well, if he does end up meeting Quincy, does he know him? Has he forgotten? And Reach was also like, he might have forgotten me, but I'm not going to bet my whole life on the hope that he's forgot me. And they're obviously off to meet the boss. He doesn't know what's coming, if he's about to get revealed or not. So now we've got that
Once again,
tension.
the question we were asking last week is literally the pondering moment of the end of this
Yeah.
episode of, is he going to remember him? Which just, like I said, everything we loved about Reacher season 1 and 2 has remained in this season, been improved upon in this season, and anything that was missing from their first two seasons, they've added. I think it is absolutely the best season of the show yet, and I cannot wait to see where the last 2-3 episodes go.
I think it might be 2.
But yeah, absolutely phenomenal show. I've been loving it. I know you have.
Yeah.
It once again, my only complaint: it's too short. It's going to be gone too soon, and then we're going to have to wait
Yeah,
a year and a half till we get
is
another one or whatever.
this is the other thing. It's like we're obviously already getting closer to the end of this story now, and I'm like, when's Neagley showing up? Surely she shows up at some point. We're gonna have a big fight before we know it. I'm like, but I want
Yeah, you
more.
got to remember that's an entire episode gunfight at the end,
Yeah.
which
Well, that
is
won't
just
even be the
mandatory at
last
this point.
episode. It'll be like the second to last, and then the last one will be like the wrap up. So yeah, he also at some point is clearly going to hook up with the FBI woman at some point.
I mean, it's got to happen, right?
He's done it in every season so far. So, but yeah, this show's been great, and I can't wait for the wrap up of where this story's going.
Speaking of wrap up, we had the penultimate episode of Invincible.
We did the Invincible War.
Very good.
It was.
This episode and last week's episode on a back-to-back run, kind of cooking with some gas there. If they pull off a three-peat here of like all-time episodes, we might be very angry. We have to wait for another season.
Yes, though we know that they're probably going to get to us quicker.
Yeah, we know they're now 8 targeting a yearly cadence.
Yeah,
so we actually have like something to roughly look forward to now, which is nice.
But yeah, it was such a good episode. Obviously, we knew from the teaser the week before and like what people had talked about. We knew the Invincible War was coming, and we'd known to only really expect it to be one episode long. which I think was
Hmm.
perfectly fine. I loved.
It worked really well.
I don't know if this was how it was done in the comics, but the whole doing the day one, day
I
two.
believe it was similar to that in the
Okay,
comic. Obviously I've not read it, but
I
I
think
believe
it
it was
was
done
it
similarly.
was a really good way of showing this like how progressively this was going to shit. Like things were getting worse. Um, and like using that as a tool to keep it moving, like keep the intensity going. I think was really good. All the different versions were really cool to see. I
Shout out oh fuck, what's his name? Stephen Ewan.
mm,
His variety of voice acting for the different
yeah,
marks was
just
very
tweaks
impressive.
to sell each one,
To make them
doing
a
them,
bit distinctive.
giving them like enough of a tweak with their like using their personalities and stuff. Like really sold these different versions of Mark.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, we have to address rest in peace to our boy Rex. Like
Last week was a really rough week.
that moment, they didn't have to hit us so hard with like not long after he literally said this is the happiest he's ever been. He's finally happy in his life. And then the moment that he sacrificed, like there's music, that just that whole sequence put together. Him going, my whole fucking skeleton, and then he just blows them. But like, oh, I know,
In 24 hours, we lost Foggy Nelson and Rex Explode. And I don't think
yeah.
the world is ever going to be able to recover from that.
It's also like it sunk in that in that moment I remembered us back in I think it was season 2 when you'd said comic fans were like, "Oh, you guys aren't ready for this like character arc that Rex is going to go on and this redemption." I didn't realize redemption was going to end in sadness.
Unfortunately, in comic books, any kind of redemption tends to end badly because you get redeemed before the fall.
Yeah, I just wish we'd had a bit more time before the fall.
Yeah, I'm gonna miss Rex a lot. He was very quickly becoming like my favorite character.
Especially this season, he's changed to be like self-aware and make jokes about, oh no, I don't make those jokes anymore, and that sort of
He's
stuff
just
was like it
actively
was
trying to be a better person.
yeah.
Do you know what it was? Ironically, he realized that being a superhero didn't make him a good person.
Mm,
Like in season 1, he's very much like, I'm saving people every day. I must
mm-hmm,
be a good person. And he was like, oh, wait, no. Yeah, I'm using my powers to help people, but that doesn't make me a good person. I'm going to try and be a good person.
mm-hmm.
And he started actively trying to do that. Even to the point where Ray was getting ready to go and fight when the
Yeah.
Invincible War kicked off. He was like, whoa, 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 you retired from this. Very bad etiquette to just come back on day one.
Yeah,
He was like, let the heroes do the hero thing. You decided you don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to respect that decision, but you've got to respect that decision as well.
yeah. It's just yeah, it hits. I saw people being like, oh, Mark didn't seem very upset that he found out his best friend died.
I don't think he's had a chance to process anything
Yeah, this
yet.
is the thing. I don't think he was just so in mental shock, and we saw that with the case of like he stopped fighting and just sat by Eve's side because he was like, and he used the excuse of, oh well, they're gonna try and hurt me, so they're gonna come here for her, and it's like, okay, you're kind of just telling yourself that a little bit. Um, I think like this is jumping around, but like the ending when Conquest shows up and he's like, you have picked the worst time because I need an excuse to hit someone. I think he's gonna this next episode when they're having this fight, we're gonna get some of that emotion shown about Rex dying and it coming out in like a rage way.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the people that were like, I someone who just lost their best friend is not really showing much emotion. This show's doing a bad job. Like, pipe down. Like, give it a chance.
He's let's put this in context for Mark. Yeah, over the course of 3 days, he's
Mm.
watched a lot of the world be destroyed by people who share his face.
Mm-hmm.
He's watched his girlfriend be put in a coma by someone who shares his face.
Yeah.
he's had to put his little brother in the firing line to fight these dudes because
Mhm.
that's the only way the Earth had a fucking hope. And for most of that time, he didn't know if his mother was alive.
Yeah, and then right at the end of it, he's trying to help clean up, and suddenly Powerplex is like back on his anti-Mark trip again and goes mental, to which then the public are all looking kind of going, yeah, this feels weird that isn't the person that did all this, but he looks like who did. Like, even
And that's what I was talking about.
the world's
Like last week, you're like, well,
processing
they'll
it.
know it's a different dude. I'm like, yeah, they'll know it's a different dude, but if you see someone who is the spitting image of the person who murdered your entire family, you're still not going to have a nice feeling about it.
No. Like, they did a good job of showing even the other heroes and stuff were kind of like unsure in like how they wanted to react. Like, everyone is very much, we know he didn't do it, but like it doesn't feel right watching.
Exactly. I mean, we saw it when he arrived at the prison. You had them superheroes and go, look, there's another one, and they just fucking ran him down because they know that they're Viltrumites. They don't have time to work out. They need to swing first and ask questions later, just to have a chance of surviving.
Yeah, no, it was very interesting to see how that all rolled out. I thought it was very cool. Was it the episode before Mark had gone to the Pentagon, or the one before that? When Mark we talked about it, I think, last week. So we saw Mark smash into the Pentagon, and we kind of saw Powerplex's opinion of like, oh, he just got to walk in here and walk out like nothing. And we were like, Mark did a lot. Like, he just punched through all the robots, and we then cut to what had been happening at the Pentagon on like day 2. Cecil's like bloody, like, Pentagon destroyed. The whole tech wing's gone, apparently. And it's like, oh, this is what would happen if Mark actually went off the rails. And they couldn't they would struggle to stop him.
Well, also got to remember, they did state that our mark was the strongest of all of these marks based on what they could garner.
Mm-hmm.
So, our mark would have done more damage.
Yeah. And it was like, I think having that when like 2 episodes or whatever were just in what our mark had done, then makes you go, oh, fucking hell, he held back, because realistically he could have done way worse.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that Cecil then told the agent guy, he was like, go front line. He let him go to the front lines because he's like, I'm a robot, I'm made to die. Like,
that change in his behavior from finding out he's a robot last season and being like, this is fucking crazy, I can't believe you've done this, and then coming to acceptance, he's like, I'm basically unkillable, send me the fuck out there, let's fuck some Viltrumites up.
Yeah, that acceptance of, okay, now I remember everything, and he's come to terms with it, and it's like, okay, I'm just going to lean into this. And Cecil obviously now respecting that.
So there's one thing you won't have noticed, which a lot of people kind of enjoyed.
Okay.
So Powerplex is voiced by Aaron Paul.
Yes.
Who was obviously in Breaking Bad.
Oh,
He plays Jesse Pinkman.
Oh, no, go on.
So the voice actor for Brit was also in Breaking Bad.
Oh.
And the role he played was an enforcer for like the main drug dealer that they worked for a little while. And then when that drug dealer died, he became like their muscle.
Okay.
And a lot of his job was keeping Jesse in line when he was going off the rails.
Right.
So people found it quite funny that in the brand new universe, you had him playing a character who cuffed Powerplex and threw him away. People thought that was quite funny.
And I wasn't sure if you were going to say that the voice actor for Conquest is...
this is another cool one.
I forget his name.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Yes, who played Negan in The Walking Dead.
Yes.
And I, like, at this point, this is not spoiler. If you haven't seen Walking Dead, sorry, but we're about to. But Stephen Ewan's character Glenn got killed by Negan with a baseball bat.
Brutally, if I understand correctly.
Yes.
Yeah. And he was like a fan favorite at the time, so it was like a gut punch.
Yes. And it was similar to like Invincible, where the comic fans were like, we know what's coming now that Negan's been introduced, and fans aren't ready, and fans were not ready. I would love, and I doubt, I bet this doesn't happen, but I said it to my roommate because he'd noticed this, like the voice actor thing. I was like, it would be so funny if some point in this fight, Mark baseball bats him in the head. Like just to have the whole like loop round, just like he finishes off Conquest with a baseball bat to the head, or like a giant steel beam like a baseball bat swing, like just tie the loop.
Yeah. I know a lot of people are excited for that. Once this is all over, they're like, okay, so what's going to be round 3?
True,
Are they going to
yeah.
be in a video game against each other? Is that going to be the decider? But phenomenal episode. It was really cool seeing all of the different marks.
Yeah.
Seeing how Angstrom survived and how messed up Mark left Angstrom.
Yes.
And it's kind of weird because Mark should feel good because he's now been vindicated. He didn't kill anyone. But at the same time, he doesn't feel any better because he fucking wishes he had killed him.
Yeah, because now he's like, if I had killed him, none of this would have happened. And then he's escaped again. So now he's like, as far as he's aware, he's still alive and he could come back and do this even worse a third time.
And I mean, he might do. It depends what the mechanics do with him.
I feel like they're going to absolutely fuck him up. Because they didn't seem happy with him. So I think they're going to fully experiment on him. And
that's going to get a bit rogue.
I don't know if he comes back from... I don't think we find out about that again.
Maybe. Just like a hellish landscape ending rather than us knowing what happens next.
It also would be like they then have this thing of Mark and like forever they're going to be like, we think he's alive. Like they're always going to be on edge of like, is he going to come back again?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we know this next episode is going to be a hell of a fight between him and Conquest.
I'm very excited for it. I think it's going to be interesting. And it's definitely going to leave us in a feeling of, holy shit, what now? Because it is the last episode of the series. We're going to have to wait a year till we find out anything else.
I am concerned once again, though. Does Oliver try and step in and help? And
yeah, Oliver's also had a mini redemption arc here, as we've already discussed. Redemption arcs don't end well.
Yes.
But Oliver stepped up big time.
He did.
He even threw his mum's logic back in her face, and she was like, "You can't go, you'll get hurt." He's like, "Did you not say my powers are there to help the people who can't help themselves? I've got to go."
Yeah, I love that she went from being mum trying to protect a kid, and then it was like, okay, I need to remember that this kid is a Viltrumite. Technically doesn't necessarily need my protecting in the same way.
Exactly.
But yeah, I am worried for Oliver in this last. I hope he makes it out of the season, but
especially bearing in mind we know that the Viltrumites are like they're like space racists, right? They don't believe in any crossbreeding. They allow Mark because humans, like biologically, they deem close enough.
Yes, and Mark has also because of who Mark's dad was, and Mark showed strength enough that they're like, okay.
Exactly. But as we remember from season 2, Nolan said to Mark, "It's like they will not respect this species. They'll view your brother as like an abnormality that needs to be destroyed." There's a real chance that Conquest spots him, realizes what he is, and makes a beeline to just exterminate this like affront to Viltrumite life or whatever.
Yeah, or like use it, like essentially kills him in front of Mark to be like, look, you've been given chances to get this planet in order. This is your punishment, and does something brutal.
But either way, I think it's going to be pretty fucking awesome.
Me too. I think it's going to be a good episode.
Some nerdy news.
Yes.
We've got a spattering of things here.
Yeah, quite a bit.
We like our nerdy news diverse, and I think that's exactly what we've got this week. So this first bit of news is kind of a two-parter. And I'm going to be a bit pessimistic.
Oh.
and say that this quote was a setup because she knew what the new trailer was going to be like. But we'll
Oh,
get into that.
yeah, yeah.
Florence Pugh has said that the tone of Thunderbolts is like what you would expect from an A24 film. Quote, quite badass indie A24 feeling assassin movie with Marvel heroes. And then, like, 2 days later, we got a new, like, 1 minute Thunderbolts trailer where, and it was quite cool in all fairness, they flexed all of, like, the A24 and, like, more indie people involved in the project, flexing like their sound editor and their cinematographer, which are not the people who normally get shout outs in a trailer.
Well, and also, I mean, we kind of got a bit of this with Captain America's trailer, where it was like that trailer was edited in not your usual MCU style. This trailer, like I ended up watching it like more than once because I was like, it just, as a creative person, it was so cool to get a Marvel trailer in a completely different style than they've ever done.
I feel
And
like for a long time, Marvel trailers felt like they'd had like a pre-made template and they just dropped the
yeah,
footage into it.
yeah, and it also just was like they got very overtelling of what would happen in the film sort of issue. This has a completely different, like it has that A24 more indie-esque film. It has like a young editor, like a mod, like these young editors on TikTok sort of vibe. I love the vibe. It helps sell this vibe of the film being a bit more playful and indie. And yeah, I think her interview, like that's calculated.
Not an accident.
No, this is Marvel we're talking about. They know what they're doing with PR. Um, the interesting things from the trailer that caught my eye is we get a clone of Florence Pugh's character.
Yeah, I imagine that's just like a once they're within the void, they
Okay,
will have to confront like their darkest fears, and
possibly.
her is her if she never left the Red Room.
Got you. And that was like, okay, what's going on there? And then obviously, the big thing of you even sent me a thing of being like, Taskmaster, like they credit each of the heroes except Taskmaster.
No, I know we joked about no one's been as dead as Foggy Nelson. No one in the history of moving pictures on a screen has ever been as dead as Taskmaster.
Yeah, but like, I get it. I agree. It is so. But what confuses me is like, it's one thing having like they've only shown one specific scene and we always see them and then we don't see them in any other scenes. But like to not even credit them, there's something like I feel that's also playing into whatever the fuck this asterisk is. There's mystery with this film that is very intriguing because it's not very Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, really cool trailer. And I do,
It was.
if people haven't seen it, you should go watch it because it will maybe
Absolutely.
get you hooked on wanting to see this film.
Yeah. Oscar winners Adrian Brody and Leonardo DiCaprio are considered teaming up to star in Damien Chazelle's Evil Knievel biopic.
Interesting.
Yeah, I know this isn't the thing we normally cover, but it felt like such a auto-generated bullshit tweet and like news article that I just had to shine a light on it. Because what do you mean? And also, how do they both star in the film? As far as I'm aware, there's only one Evil Knievel.
Well, yeah, but you're gonna have like Evil Knievel and his trainer or something, or like his
Yeah, but surely
manager,
that's
or
not teaming
like
up to star. Like, do you know what I mean? But I can't remember the last time that two people who've won Oscar for Best Actor have like kind of gone. We want to work together on a thing.
mm. It's such
So
an interesting choice of what they want to work on as well. Like, I mean,
this script has got to be phenomenal, no?
or they're just like we all like as kids, we knew Evil Knievel as like, oh, it's the stunt guy.
Hmm.
Like that's kind of the expanse of my knowledge of who Evil. He jumped over things on a bike, like, like So I don't know. Maybe they also his childhood things were like, oh, Evil Knievel's this
Yeah,
cool stunt guy. Oh, we can make a film about
maybe,
him.
maybe. And biopics are all the rage for like awards now, aren't they? So
Yeah,
maybe that's
true.
part of it. Hans Zimmer has revealed
Mm.
that in the past he's been approached about doing a score for the MCU. It was always that the timing wasn't great, and he said that he's looking for other things now, as he's already done the superhero trifecta as a reference to the Nolan Batman
Mm-hmm.
trilogy. Um, I enjoy a lot of Hans Zimmer's scores. I do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think his music would have really elevated or worked with any particular MCU film that well. Maybe something like Endgame.
I was gonna say Endgame, like those two final ones would have been, and I imagine that's probably what he's talking about, and the timing didn't work because he was probably on working on other stuff.
Yeah. But
Um,
interesting to know that the MCU has nearly landed so many big people for different things in the past, and it's just never lined up. You do wonder how different things might have been had some things gone different ways.
yeah,
Maybe it was like The Dark World he was going to do the score for, and maybe it would have been a better film if he'd done the score. Who knows? Um, Callum Richardson is once again proclaiming his desire to play Spider-Man. This
Spider
time
Man.
claiming,
You mean Batman?
sorry, Batman. Imagine him
Alan
as
Richards.
Spider-Man. Look better as Venom, for fuck's sake. Alan Richardson is once again proclaiming his desire to play Batman, claiming you wouldn't even have to pay me.
James Gunn.
So here's my thing, right? You know I love Alan Richardson.
Yeah.
I think he's great. I also do think he would do a good Batman.
Hmm.
I feel like there's probably something better for him. I don't know what, but I feel like there's something better for him.
It's tough because, like you, I would more than happily see him as Batman,
Oh, if
and I
they
think,
cast him, I'm gonna just be like, okay, I'm down to give this a chance.
yeah, I feel like I think he could do a great job. It's yeah, it's that question of is there a better thing for fit for him? Should DC pick someone who's not like such a big name currently?
Mm-hmm.
Like, should they lean into someone who is maybe not necessarily like a big name, but is a really good fit for the Batman? Like, we don't know. We have jokingly said he does fit the silhouette that we were shown in Creature Commandos.
Yeah.
So,
The big thing is, since he stopped playing Thad Castle in Blue Mountain State, great show by the way. Go watch that if you ever want to convince yourself, or find out why he's such a diversely good actor.
hmm,
He's had a beard for ages now.
hmm.
For me to be sold on the idea of him as Bruce Wayne, I need him to shave the beard nice and clean and put on a suit to sell me on the idea that he can do Bruce Wayne. I
Reaches
know he
season
can
4.
do Batman, but I need to know for a fact he can do Bruce Wayne.
We'll see it in Reaches season 4.
Maybe. But one to keep an eye on, the man's fighting for this role, and with the popularity of Reacher, it might just be enough to turn heads.
And saying you don't have to pay me. James Gunn might be like, I've got it in writing.
Yeah, that is legally binding. Netflix plans to spend 18 billion on content in 2025, so at least them subscription hikes are worth it, right?
So how? So is what? Is that?
That's just renewing Friends for one season
Well, no, I was going to say 18 billion. That's a lot of shows for just
to
one. Like
cancel.
just season one. Like, how many season ones can they make with 18
They're going to
billion?
make so many season ones, more season ones than anyone in the world. The best season ones, some may say. They'll be like, we have season 2? No, more season ones.
Honestly,
The problem is, right, I have no frame of reference over how much they spent over the last few
currently,
years to see
yeah,
if this is improvement. And they haven't said that's on
new
new
shows,
content
yeah.
that they are making. This is just 18 billion on content. That is going to cover all of the shows that I know I joked about, oh, that were new Friends for 1 year, but that would cover like renewing shows that they've had
Well, yeah, like
exclusivity for.
I talked about at the beginning of the episode about watching Drive to Survive. Drive to Survive. There's the Full Swing, the golf one. I think there's another. I want to say there's a tennis one. Like those
Yeah.
are all done by the same production studio, but they're gonna get renewed every year because they're great for um their subscriptions. Also, if Riot does another, like, I mean, all of that could go on the next Arcane, whatever Riot makes.
Yeah. So just to be clear, starting from January, Netflix became the distributor for WWE,
Right.
and that cost $5 billion.
Well,
I believe
there's
that was a 5-year deal. I believe it might have only
$2
been
billion
3.
a
I can't
year.
remember exactly. So that's like a fifth of their budget on something I'm not going to watch a single second of. To put it in context,
Maybe they'll surprise us. Maybe they're gonna
like
bring out something that is actually good again.
exactly. And I love to hate on Netflix because they've done nothing for me lately.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to spend 18 billion on content, like, oh, look how good we're doing, while you're also raising the prices every 3 weeks, it feels like. I'm just
And
like, how
cancel
about
every
you spend
show.
12 billion and you give me £2 a month back?
It's yeah. They've got a lot of work to do to change the perception of, oh, this show gets cancelled after one season. Because
Do
that's
not fall in love with a Netflix original show, because if you get more than one season, you're fucking lucky.
yeah, like they need to start making some good stuff to
Do you know
change
what do you know how I view like Netflix's season ones? You know how like back in the old days of like traditional TV,
Mm-hmm.
you'd have pilot season.
Yep.
So you'd have like 2 months in America where they would just play a bunch of fucking pilots.
Mm-hmm.
Netflix is doing that, but instead of one episode to see what people like, they're doing that, and they're doing
With a
entire
season.
seasons.
Mm-hmm.
They're building a fan base. People are like, oh, that was really good. I like that. And then they go, get fucked.
Yeah.
Great. Um, according to the Hollywood Reporter,
Oh,
after
yeah.
it was revealed that Broccoli called Amazon fucking idiots in reference to them pitching her a James Bond spin-off about Moneypenny, Jeff Bezos reportedly told Amazon execs to get rid of her, also stating, I don't care what it costs.
Somebody's ego got bruised.
I try so hard not to be pessimistic. I know I've said it a million times, I'll say it a million more times. I try and look for the silver lining. James Bond is one of my most beloved franchises. I have VHSs of all of the old Bond films. I've seen, I believe, all but 2 of them, going all the way back to Sean Connery in the beginning, right? I have so much love for James Bond as a character and a series. I have never been less excited for a James Bond film. And they've not even announced that one's like coming in a year or 2 years or 3 years. We don't know when the next one's going to be. And I'm already like, fuck, this is going to suck. And do you know what makes it suck even more? On Friday, I went to see Teddy Swims. And while sat there listening to him, in my head, I went, he would fucking murder a Bond theme. In my head, I was like, his voice would be phenomenal for a Bond theme. And then I had a moment of realization. I'm like, fuck, if he does a Bond theme, it's going to be for a shitty Amazon film, and he doesn't deserve that.
I mean, it
God
makes
damn you,
more
Jeff Bezos.
sense to why she walked away now, because she probably got told on the side, Bezos wants rid of you because of what you said, and he doesn't, like, he's basically being like, you might as well walk away because he's going to make this hell for you.
So this is what we need to remember, because like the Bond IP is a weird IP. It's owned by her and the other dude, because they're of their families. And it's like kind of owned but not really. But their families negotiated creative control.
Yes.
Brilliant bit of business from them to make sure that they could keep the character as it should be. They've been MGM and Amazon are working together, so now they are the distributor of James Bond, and they're going to make the James Bond films. That again is not a problem inherently. But Amazon want to turn James Bond into something it's not, and have spin-offs for Moneypenny. And shit like that. And as people who do genuinely care about the IP, Broccoli and co were like, no, we're not doing that, no, we're not doing that. And after I think 4 years now of going, no, that's dumb. Eventually, at some point, you've gone, they're fucking idiots and they don't get the character. Which I've said, Jeff
Yeah,
Bezos, throw a boatload of money at me. I've called you a fucking moron. Um, and I don't blame her for when she sees the massive fuck off check going, what? Am I going to. Like, at this point, she cares about making films regardless.
yeah.
Do I keep spending the next 10 years, 15 years of my life fighting to maybe not get anything made just to protect a character? Or do I accept this big fucking bag of money and then go somewhere where I have more control and I can actually get something made that I believe in? And
Well,
I
yeah,
don't blame her for at a certain point being so
yeah.
worn down and just
Well,
going, I
this
can't
this
keep
is the thing. It's
fighting
like
it.
you can only shout at a brick wall for so long, and then it's like, let's be real. If she didn't take the check, Amazon is the sort of company that would then go, okay, we can't get rid of her by paying her off. Get the fucking lawyers on it. We're finding some way of taking this off them, which is then an even bigger hell of a pay. Like, it's just not. If there comes, like you say, it comes a point where it's just not, the fight's just not worth it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we don't blame her. It's the fact that Jeff Bezos' ego is so weak that one person calling them fucking idiots has then made him go, oh, we got to get rid of her. Like, fuck's sake.
I don't think I'm overstating and saying I'm one of the most stubborn individuals most people would meet in their life. I know I'm a stubborn fuck. I have my opinions. I work on them, but I'm not willing to move normal unless you've got a really good point to make.
Hmm.
I don't know how long again, as someone who fucking loves James Bond, would be able to fight and not get demoralized and eventually throw in the towel.
Well, yeah,
So
because
I can't sit here going, "Oh, she should have fought the good fight and protected the character." 4 or 5 years is enough to wear anyone down.
well, and this you've also got to look at her perspective. If she wants to be making other stuff as well, like she isn't at the point of her life where like got all the money they need, they're retired, they're not doing anything, like they're just enjoying their life now. If you're in that position and you still have the control, you can just be like, you have nothing to offer me that I don't already have. I have all the time left now where I'm not doing anything. I will sit here and deny everything that you need to do. Sure. But they're at this point in their life where like, no, I want to go make other stuff. I don't want this being just like taking 50% of my time all the time because they're fucking idiots. Like, it's just not worth it anymore. Like, look, I'll take the check, I'll go make the things I want to make, and I wash my hands of James Bond. Like,
Yeah, it sucks so much, but I've no one to blame other than Jeff Bezos.
yeah,
He doesn't care. He's got more money
no.
than God. Although stock market's tanking, he's lost 30 billion in the last month and a half. Get fucked, wanker. I've never lost 30 billion in my life. You'd never catch me losing 30 billion, chump.
That has to be a clip this week.
The Russos aren't worried about set leaks for Doomsday, as apparently they have a plan.
Did you see the amount of memes that came out of this?
No, no, I
Oh,
didn't.
so this obviously came out in like an interview or whatever, and on
Yeah.
Twitter, so many fucking memes were made, and it's like, Russo brothers, we have a plan. The plan, and it was Kevin with a sniper on a building. There was like so many like that where it's just like some meme of Kevin doing something.
I love the idea that they genuinely think they're going to stop set leaks. I don't want them to shoot everything in a soundstage, and that is the only way they have a hope in hell of stopping set leaks.
Yes and no. Like, it depends how strict they want to be with staff.
Unless they're filming everything in a desert, like they can't film anything on location in a city and have any, like they can't film a damn thing in New York City and expect there not to be a set leak.
Don't get me wrong. Certain cities it gets harder. It all comes. Let's be honest. It all comes down to how strict they want to be and how much money they want to spend. Because if they really want to be like locked down, They will build a 10-foot high wooden wall in the middle of a street to block the view of the set if they really wanted to. Like
Do you
they
know what I
could,
mean? I'll be amazed if they pull it off.
like if they
Amazed.
if they really wanted to have like a street and block off any track, you just build scaffolding at both ends, put sheeting down it. No one can see what's going on the street. But are they going to be able to do that? Who knows? It's
I
more
mean, I'd like to
likely
point out.
they're just going to block stuff or be very quick on like.
Okay,
If they
let's
see
put this in a bit of
someone-
context, right? I don't know if you saw this, and it wasn't on the news. There was a concept artist who leaked a bunch of concept art for this
Yeah.
film.
Yeah.
Yes, that website got taken down and DMCA'd and obliterated by the Marvel lawyers. It still took 2 hours,
Oh yeah.
and once it's on the internet, it's on the
Oh, no,
internet
yeah.
forever. Like, and this is the thing, yeah, they will probably do a phenomenal job. And I think Marvel have always done a phenomenal job stopping set leaks. Bearing in mind, for a long time, how popular Marvel films were and everyone in the world wanted to see what was going on. I think they always did a very good job of limiting set leaks. But going, we're not worried, we have a plan, just feels like famous last words for the entire film to get leaked on the internet a month before release.
Yeah, or they're gonna purposefully like
Just fake
make
leaks.
well fake leaks or have stuff that's like clearly that they're making very little effort to cover what they're shooting because whatever it is they're shooting is completely pointless. Because then they know people are gonna be like, oh my god, set leaks, and it's like all that shit's pointless. Meanwhile, 2 streets over, they're filming the actual shit they need to.
Do you think they're going to make 3 fake films while recording the film so people don't know what's real or not?
Like, that
Look,
wouldn't
I'll be
surprise me if
amazed.
there's stuff like that where they're just filming far more than they ever need, purely just to throw off people.
Maybe, but I just love the confidence.
Yeah.
Once again, there is an attempt being made to bring beloved horror game series Resident Evil to the big screen. This next attempt is due to come out in 2026, and with a quote, more faithful and horror focused take on the franchise. I want nothing more than a good Resident Evil film.
I think many people do.
Would also be remiss to not mention that in the last few years we've had a lot of very successful and very good gaming to film adaptations or TV show adaptations. I'm not sure I'm willing to start huffing the copium that they're going to pull it off this time, though.
I'm not gonna huff the copium.
I'd be very happy if they pull it off, though.
Turn around and tell me, oh, A24 is making this or something, or like, and the writer that worked on the Fallout TV show, like, or like, there's people that have worked on other video game stuff that did well, and then you've got like some studio or something that's really good at making horror. I'm like, okay, we might be on the right track here. But yeah, I'm not gonna.
I mean, maybe it's not a bad idea for them to maybe work with someone like Bloomberg, who did like the Five Nights at Freddy films and have always done lowish budget horror films pretty successfully. Maybe that's the kind of production company that has like the right pedigree and skills to make it work. But it'll make a fuck ton of money because so many people want a good Resident Evil film that they'll be like, okay, I'm ready to be hurt again.
Yeah, that is the thing. It's been a while that people will be like, oh, maybe this is the one. And
so here's the thing, though. I think a lot of like diehard fans would like them to adapt to the earlier games, but I think some of the newer games, like Resident Evil Biohazard and Village, have such a good story that would be a lot easier to potentially try and adapt.
well, this then becomes the thing though. They do one of the stories already told in the games, or like Fallout, just keep it in the world and tell something new.
Maybe.
Like,
That could also work if they do it well.
Yeah, so
yeah, the Umbrella Corp's always doing dodgy shit. Just what else have the Umbrella Corp been up to? What are concepts for games that they decided to go a different way with? Like, new photo of Edgar Wright on the set of Running Man. It's not news, but I am excited. Or every time I've seen an update about this Running Man film, I have included it in the news. I'm not going to stop. It's just a picture of him with lots of cameras and like set-esque stuff being set up on a knee, clearly looking at something important that's happening.
Right.
But we just get a picture of him. I'm going to be unbearable when this film comes out, and you're all going to have to suffer for it with me. I cannot wait. I have really high hopes for this film. Even if I hate it, I might just lie forever and say I loved it. Who knows? But I'm excited. Sue me. Um, as if I couldn't love Andor anymore, right? Tony Gilroy has said they won't be releasing the Andor scripts publicly because he doesn't want them to be used to train AI. And I quote, "Why help the fucking robots any more than you can? And ain't that a fucking way to live?"
Do you remember that this has come about because originally they were going to be releasing the
Yes.
scripts? Yeah.
They were going to release him in like a nice book or something,
Yeah,
weren't
they
they?
were going to do it as a book because people
Which
were like,
also
loved
would
it.
have been fucking awesome.
Yeah, it would have been.
Another reason to hate AI.
People loved them so much, and people love collecting scripts for films and stuff. So it's like, it would have been super cool. The same way that I like collecting the art books. But yeah, I'm so on board with the fact that they're like, yeah, fuck that. We're not helping AI. We're not going to give you content to scrub.
And let's be honest, it's some of the best written stuff of the last maybe like
Yeah.
10, 15 years.
And especially for like Star Wars, like some of the best writers, it's like, oh, ChatGPT needs to get better at writing sci-fi stuff. Let's scrub Dune Part 2, Andor. Like, there's a few films and shows recently where they're like, oh, they'd be perfect to scrub and learn from. So why give them the content to do it? So.
And like he said, it's not going to stop them being able to do it, but it does make it harder.
Yeah, well,
because they can scrub the dialogue, but they won't be able to get any of like the prompts in the scripts for the actors as easily and stuff like that. Next up,
I have watched this.
Yes, so Lilo and Stitch trailer is here. The live action Lilo and Stitch.
Yes.
I am normally a hater of animated to live action films from Disney.
As am
I think they don't serve a purpose. I think largely they're creatively bankrupt. Cash grabs just to keep their IP valuable. Having said that, I kind of fuck with this one. I don't know why. I was watching the trailer. I was like, oh, it's kind of what I want it to be. It's kind of Stitch being a little gremlin.
This is the thing. So watching the trailer, I think they've done a great job at bringing Stitch to life and matching his mind, like, and giving that chaos that Stitch should have. It's still, I don't know. I'm still in the boat of, why do we need a live action version of everything? Like, either just make another animated thing if you need to keep the IP alive, or if you're gonna do live action, do something new. You're just retelling the same story. Like, I don't know. I just feel like it's such a Disney's thing now is just, oh, what's an animated film we haven't done a live action version of? Right, let's add that to the list. That's next up. And it becomes this thing of like, okay, Disney, you stop creating new stuff now. You're just rehashing the old stuff in live action, which is a very hit and miss.
Well, do you remember like maybe 10, 15 years ago, the joke was there was nothing new in the cinema, it was all just sequels. Now there's nothing new in the cinema, it's all just live action remakes or animated remakes. Normally live action PlayStation. Remakes. Hey, you stole my joke.
I did.
But I'm like, yeah, 10, 15 years ago, it felt like everything was a sequel, but at least it was a new story.
Yeah.
Now we are just getting the same story and it's brought to live action, and it's not even really live action because half the characters are going to be completely CG'd in anyway. So what are we talking about? Like the one that always bugged me was the live action Lion King. What you mean where every single animal is complete CGI? What do you even mean? It's just an inferior version of the same film.
Like, oh, cool, you shot some landscape shots and then just filled it with CGI animals. But yeah,
But having said all that, this one does seem better, and I don't know why. Maybe it's because I've not seen Lilo and Stitch in so long. It felt maybe a bit more new to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they've just got better at doing CGI characters with live action actors, like, and actresses. Like, that's just got better because tech's got better. They also have learned from other films' mistakes, like Sonic, of don't try and redesign the character. keep them a bit more like closer and more faithful to the actual character, because that'll upset people. Like, don't get me wrong, it looks fine, and Stitch looks fun. Like, they've got the vibe right. I'm just kind of sick of Disney just doing live action versions.
If they hadn't released any other live action remakes of films and they just released this, I feel like I'd be very excited.
I'd definitely be more
But because
excited.
they've done so many of them, I don't believe in the practice.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of like, yeah, it looks cool, but I kind of feel like morally I shouldn't go and see it, but I kind of want to. You know?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Tricky one. And then news as we were getting ready to record.
Yes.
Sadie Sink from Stranger Things?
Yes, from Stranger Things.
Yeah. Has joined the Spider-Man forecast.
She has.
Rumours are circulating already that she's either playing Jean Grey or, more controversially, more ironically, Mary Jane Watson. If they've set Zendaya up as Michelle Jones this entire time, so she's still MJ, made us all fall in love with the idea of Spider-Man and his MJ, and also Tom Holland and Zendaya, just to then, in the fourth film, give us an actual Mary Jane Watson, I'm going to lose my fucking mind. However, there is a better theory.
Okay.
Apparently, this film is still a multiverse film.
Potentially.
People are huffing copium that she may be Mayday Parker from the Raimi universe, as in Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst's daughter, who ends up in our universe.
I'm trying to think, like, visually, does that make visual sense? And it kind of does.
Mm-hmm. And it kind of fuck. There is also another popular theory that famously everyone who's ended up playing Gwen Stacy was a redhead when they got cast and then was blonde for the film.
That's a strange coincidence.
Yeah, it's a very weird, and everyone's like, they're following the pattern.
Imagine. They know what works, so they must continue it.
And Gwen Stacy, I have less of an issue with.
Yeah.
As long as, they let her be Gwen Stacy and not Spider-Gwen.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because the rumors around this film is somewhat, multiversal. It's going to be he interacts with all the characters we know are going to be in Doomsday, and it's going to obviously then end up tying into that. It's like,
I have no idea what this film's going to be. All I know is I'm going to be seated because it's Spider-Man, and that motherfucker's going to get my money for a ticket every fucking time.
It'd be interesting if... I don't understand. I don't get how they could do Jean Grey. Unless, obviously,
I don't know what's going on there.
Post-credit?
Maybe
show us the X-Men world again. That's all she's in for, just the post-credit.
But do you cast someone and make such a big deal of it just for a post-credit scene?
No, of course not.
This is the thing. I really, really don't know. It's cool to see some casting news. That's always exciting. But as always, whenever the MCU's involved, the second someone gets cast, it's who are they going to play? And 4 major options have been thrown out in the 40 minutes I've been looking on Twitter. And I'm like, I'm not sure I like or hate any of these. And that in reality, she's probably going to be none of them.
It's probably just some generic worker at the Daily Bugle because Spider-Man
She is unnamed classmate 4.
Yeah.
But that is it for the news this week. Thank you so much for hanging out. Next week, Josh is back for more gaming news. We got the finale of Invincible.
Yes.
Maybe the penultimate episode of Reacher. I can't remember. We've got more Daredevil, more character profiles, more good stuff. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
See you next week.